very grateful to introduce Professor Raúl, Associate Professor and Executive Director, North American Integration and Development Center, University of California, Los Angeles, USA. Please take the stage.
A couple of things. I actually, it was not on my bio, I'm also the chairman, CEO of a technology company. So see, now that they put me on a technology panel, this is perfect. So I will be talking about the technology issue. And now, since I flew so many miles, I thought I would have a few more minutes, but I'll try to cut my presentation. I was going to speak about four things, and I'll just jump right into it and see how far we get into it. I think it's really important to put in a context what we're talking. This is a really critical moment in the world. I mean, we have right across the channel the G20 going on right now, and we have a disaster of a president in the United States, which is creating a very serious challenge for the world. All right, so it's incumbent on us to understand what's going on, right? And I just want to put one thing in context. If you look at the world, we're right now, at this very moment, living what I call the Great Convergence. Basically, for the last 500 years, the so-called developed countries of the world have been rising up until about 1950. And just about 4 years ago, for the first time in 500 years, the developing countries of the world have now overcome the developed countries of the world in terms of global GDP. This is creating a great deal of anxiety, especially right in this location where we are now, where imperialism began. The Isles of Dogs, as they call this, right? So we're in a sense driving a full circle, and the other thing that's going on with this full circle is a massive migration from rural to urban, also happening at this moment. The global migration that brought the diasporas out are part of this global migration from rural to urban, and will continue, but rapidly declining within, I think, our lifetime. We're still going to live 150 years, right? As our medical staff has been telling us. Now, the other important thing that's going on right now is massive globalization. We had one pattern of globalization which occurred right around these docks that collapsed in war, and now we have another second massive pattern of globalization. Who knows how that will end, right? Or will it? Okay. The other dimension is migration. This is the United States. It also peaked about 100 years ago, went down, and now but it's definitely going up, creating also a great deal of anxiety. The other thing, and this is very important for California, and the United States, is the ethno-racial transformation of the developed countries. In California, we are already, this is the white population of California. They're a minority, okay? They're the minority. The people of color, blacks, browns, Asians, Native Americans, we're the majority. We run California, all right? We are the future, all right? The United States is entering into this critical period right now where its level of anxiety of whites becoming minority is at a fever pitch, okay? And we are also entering into a second massive inequality. We used to have very high inequality. The war and depression took care of that. And then now, but it's soaring. So this combination is creating a very challenging moment in the world. And it is this context within which we have these elections of Brexit and Trump. All right. Now, something else is going on. The diaspora, which I want to talk about for a second here. We are now reached about 250 million people that were born outside of their country and are now living somewhere else. This is way up. Just 1965, there were only 75 million. Right. This is dramatic, and by the way, this is going south-south and north-south. In fact, south-south is growing very quickly, migrations. Remittances, we're at $600 billion, okay? Most of the countries that we're going to be talking about, remittances are bigger than direct foreign investment. And by the way, it's all in cash. Very serious problem. That's what my technology is, how to convert the cash remittances into electronic remittances into the banking system so you can create financing for development, right? Huge issue. If we stick around waiting for corporations and I'm all for knowledge-based development. My company was founded in Silicon Valley, where I housed right now. But we have to understand that we need to mobilize these technology for the urgent needs of development and a rural area, which I'm glad the panel next is going to talk about. But what's interesting though is that if you add up, as I was saying earlier, the economic impact of the diaspora together, right? They are the third largest economy of the world. All right, $7.1 trillion. This is just of the immigrants outside of their countries producing value in other parts of the world. $7.1 trillion. And I have the numbers here, but I'm not going to go into it. In the UK, what do immigrants in the United States? It's close to $2 trillion. And we're actually doing a little experiment for Donald Trump. What would it mean if you were to deport the immigrants? It would be the worst catastrophic crisis in the history of capitalism, is what it would mean. All right? And so in reality, what I want to talk about is how you need to empower this. And I'm going to tell a short story of this country of El Salvador, since I thought it would be appropriate in the Sudan. We had I'm from Mexico. I was born in Mexico. El Salvador is a little country south of Mexico, where the United States financed a civil war there in the 1980s, right? It spent quite a few $1 billion, in fact. Let me just show you. It used to be an agricultural exporter. When the war broke out, the number one source of foreign exchange became the U.S. military aid, which began a process of massive outmigration, so that today remittances is the primary form of foreign exchange in the country. All right, it's 20% of GDP. The 2.5 million Salvadorians who have left the country. This is probably an important parallel for a lot of things that are happening now. Are now in the United States, and in the United States, by the way, they produce 3 times the GDP of El Salvador. So in the United States, they produce $75 billion for the United States, and the economy of El Salvador is only $25 billion. All right. So the reality of the future of the nation, of the Salvadorian nation, is transnational, is diaspora. This is part of what we need to convince the policymakers. This is not just sort of be nice to these foreigners that are being discriminated in England. No, this is about the future of the countries, okay? And how this is put together is of critical importance. Very, very interesting. This is only growing. This importance of the diaspora is only growing. And one thing that I find very important is savings. The savings of immigrants, right, in the UK, in the United States, compared to national savings that is going on in the countries of origin, is also much higher. So it turns out not only is the GDP being produced in the rich countries, but the savings that could be used for development is being produced in the rich countries. But there's no way to get that savings. Many of us would love to figure out a way to maybe invest our 401k. I don't know if you have those here. These investment, your retirement funds, for example, put them to work creating development in your country. How? Well, we have a way, we figured that out, how to do that, which is what I'm going to talk about. Since I don't have a lot of time, I just want to say this. This is a map of the United States. I don't know how well you can see this. But the red zones is where Donald Trump won the election. But they're also where there are no immigrants. In other words, 98% of the counties where Donald Trump won have never seen a Mexican immigrant. So I don't know why they have this obsession with building a wall, right? The wall would be, It's a wall in their minds, right? We have a very serious, so here we have this very serious problem. We are a highly interdependent world. The solutions are there to create this very, very positive future, but we have a very, very serious problem of politicians that are completely manipulating this. And by the way, guess what? Brexit is exactly the same situation. If you look at the zones that voted for Brexit are the ones where there are no immigrants, okay? So we have this other transnational problem that the immigrants are creating the value in the areas that are, by the way, accepting and wanting this global citizenship, all right, and are open to it. And, but we have this, right now, this very serious issue of the ability to use social media to attack the reptilian part of the brain and motivate it, apparently, for political gain. Very serious issue which we need to solve if we're going to be able to get to this problem. All right, I'm going to go very quickly. By the way, the area, the blue zones is where the immigrants are. That's where all the value is being created, by the way. All right, so this is how we create these combinations. So what does the future look like? Well, it's definitely not building walls. This, by the way, is the cost of what Donald Trump is planning on doing in terms of building walls. This would result in the projected cost of catching a Mexican, okay? Right? I'm a Mexican, right? How much does it cost to catch a Mexican? Right now, it used to cost $1,000 to catch a Mexican. The United States spends $50,000 for every Mexican. Donald Trump wants to raise the price to $150,000 for every Mexican. You could take him to Harvard, give him a PhD, okay, for $150,000. Okay? It's completely absurd. Okay. So anyway, by the way, so we created a economic. I do modeling for my day job. What would be the impact of mass deportations? Well, $2.6 trillion economic loss. What would be the value of empowering immigrants? In the United States, we have 11 million undocumented. We're shocked. How did all these they created all the food. They do all the work. They clean everybody. Okay, fine. How about giving them legal rights? What would that do? Well, it turns out it creates $1.5 trillion in economic benefit. All right, so we don't stop there. We create social movements is what I'm doing. So this is a rally in front of the White House demanding the 1.5 trillion that we can have by empowering immigrants, taking them out of the shadows. All right. And by the way, I am a movie actor since I do live in Los Angeles. So this is me. Hold on, here it is. This is me being Professor Abdul Hassan in the movie. I play. I'm Mexican, but I play an actor who is a Iranian doctor who is because Abdul and Raúl, we were friends, but because Mexicans had to disappear in this movie, right? We made a movie called A Day Without a Mexican. What would California be like without any Mexicans, right? It was a joke. We did it 10 years ago, thinking, oh, this will never happen. This is a joke. We better get it done before the world is moving on, and we have to remind how stupid we were 10 years ago. Well, we're reissuing the movie, obviously, okay? And this, by the way, this is Los Angeles City Hall, the biggest demonstration in the history of the United States. Okay, immigrants are standing up. Don't worry. Donald Trump is in trouble. All right, and the other dimension of it is that economic benefits will come from this, and we do a lot of analysis. I just want to talk finally now about remittances. We have detailed mapping. We have maps of all remittances from every village in Central America and Mexico to every zip code in the United States, and remittances. So it turns out it's a lot of money. So I created this company. We've won a lot of awards for this technology. And what is it? I was the first to figure out how to move cash from a MasterCard to a MasterCard through cell phones in the countryside, right? So, and free, by the way. Okay, so we're the free bank accounts on both sides of the border. Remittance costs are 75% below Western Union, right? And the most important part about it is how to convert the technology linkage in the United States through a debit card and through a cell phone into, in this is the case of El Salvador, an entire ecosystem of financial services for savings accounts, right? So now you can have, right here, while you're listening to me, send money to your savings account, your savings bond in the Sudan, all right, that is getting you interest of, you know, in the case of El Salvador, it's 5% per year, which is better than you can get in a bank, all right? And then that is converted to all types of economic activity for support of, and let me just give you a quick example of this. So we work with very rural, you may say, oh yeah, but that's, you know, cell phones. No, we don't have those in the, by the way, how many people use their social media to text to the Sudan? Anybody? Aha, that's what I thought. Okay. All right. So we're doing that too. All right. So all of this is done through WhatsApp and Facebook Messenger, all of that. Okay. This is how you use these networks. We're working with very poor indigenous communities in Mexico. This is a case of a group of women abandoned by their men who went off to be migrants and left them, and we basically started creating, you know, I don't know if you eat cactus. We eat cactus in Mexico, okay? So we created organic cactus for export, okay? And now we create a whole factory doing this with U.S. Department of Agriculture certified, relevant for the next panel, right? And with a massive market, since and now the Mexicans are in Los Angeles and they have a lot more money to eat cactus, all right? So it's a very good business. So, and so what we've done, this is another case in the little village of Usulutan, where we use the savings to create sustainable economic development of fish farming from these areas that using a very interesting type of solar-powered motors, which is very positive for the environment, and creating an ability for them to support their local communities through these remittances. So these are our community meetings where everybody's very excited about it, and we're embracing the technology. So I thought it would be a very important story to tell, that, you know, we must exchange these types of work. I've been living in Dubai, where we're actually also doing the same work with Pakistanis Uber drivers in Dubai. It turns out they're all from Peshawar, right? So, you know, how do you use all of this technology? And I'd love to figure out some way that we can do it with the Sudan and other places. Thank you very much.